Not only that, that 58 championship game, that's the one that really put pro football.
I used to think that too. And the late Steve Sable, who was a great what he did, the NFL films.
Right.
He used to say to me when I told him that he thought it was Lombardi's Packers that put the NFL on the map. Dynasty, Little Green Bay. Lombardi was from Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, so he had a lot of personality. A lot of the New York writers followed him around. So he thinks that put it more on the map than the 58 game. But the 58 game was an all-time, well, listen, it was a sloppy game. But, the Colts pulled off the upset. Overtime, Yankee Stadium, national television. I mean, that game's got everything. Unitas leading the great drives. I mean, that game's got a lot about it you like. So that's 100% right. Go ahead. Next.
Yeah, I mean, they always said that's like the greatest game ever played, which it's not. But it was an important historical game. But
it wasn't a straight. It was and the funny thing is, one of the two. The thing that's unique is that's why I always give the great trivia question. The two most important games in a lot of ways in the history of the National Football League is the 58 game and the Jets-Colts game.
Right.
And Weeb Eubank coached in both of them, the winning team. He coached the Colts in 58, and he coached the Jets in 68. And people don't people don't realize that. Weeb Eubank was came from the Paul Brown tree, and a lot of people don't realize that Weeb was, coached the Jets. He had Namath, had Unitas. I mean, that's pretty good company to coach those two guys, and he won the two most significant games in either league, probably in the history of the NFL. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Lenny Moore, too, earlier, because I don't think people remember how good he was.
Lenny Moore was a
workhorse running back, but he was like the all-purpose guy, kind of like a Marcus Allen guy.
Yeah,
like that,
excellent point, Mark.
Yeah,
excellent. No, I didn't see Moore in his prime, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. Ernie's the guy we need here, but I think he hit the right guy. I think Lenny Moore is he played at Penn State. Lenny Moore is a Marcus Allen clone beforehand. Guy who catch the ball out of the backfield. He carried the ball 12 times a game, catch 5 passes, that kind of thing. And he was on I don't know when he came in. I can look it up. When did Lenny Moore begin? I'd say probably, I don't think he was on the 58 team. So I would say a little later than that.
Maybe 61, I think. Something
56?
Like that.
Oh, then he came up in 56, so I was wrong. And when did he retire? 70? 67. So Lenny Moore was on that team for 11 years, and that's a long time for running back. So he was on the 58, 59 championship teams. Lenny Moore, he hit the right guy, though. You're right on the button there, Mark. Well done. He's a Allen type of guy. Go ahead. What else?
So you think these NFL teams are worried about Barkley being like the Penn State running backs haven't done too much lately, I mean, they had Kajana Carter and then Blair Thomas.
Curtis Enos.
You think they're a little leery of this guy, or they don't think that way?
I don't think so. The USC quarterback hasn't been great either, Carson Palmer wasn't great. Matt Leinart wasn't great. Matt Sanchez wasn't great. So, I mean, you can go any way you want sometimes. Listen, you know what I'm most impressed about with Barkley? I know this sounds a wacky one. You know what I'm most impressed about him? It's an intangible, but boy, if I was a GM, I'd take him because of this reason. He played in that bowl game against Washington, Fiesta Bowl. Penn State was not winning the championship. They had 2 losses. They lost to Michigan State and they lost to and they lost to Ohio State on the road. They were not winning the title. He could have taken a hand off and gotten off the field. They could not keep a uniform. They could not take his uniform off that day. He couldn't wait to play. He did everything in that game. I can look up the statistics. Matt, you got the statistics for me? It's that is the game against Washington in the Fiesta Bowl. I bet you that he had 15, 18 carries. He caught 5 balls and returned kicks and punts. What did he do? They don't have it yet. We'll find it for me when you get a chance. That's important. Frank is in San Antonio, Texas. Frank, good afternoon. How are you today, pal? What do you have for me?
Chris, I agree with you completely on Kirk Cousins. That was a huge mistake by the Vikings. And I'm a big Eagles fan, and I just get tired of the way these teams treat their quarterbacks. Minnesota kicked theirs to the curb after 13-3 record, and Nick Foles should start for my Eagles. That's right, Chris, Nick Foles. I remember him from 2013 and 14. The guy's phenomenal. these Eagle fans think Carson Wentz is Joe Montana, and he's not. It just drives me nuts. Start Nick Foles, and away we go to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, hold on now. They're not going to do that. Wentz was phenomenal. Let's give him credit. They're not going to start Foles. I don't think they're going to trade him either. I think Foles is going to sit tight. They're going to keep him as insurance, I think, for two reasons. The health of Wentz, who knows? And I think it's really upsetting the football gods. I know that's an intangible. It's a weird way to quantify it. But, boy, the guy won you the Super Bowl first time in 58 years, and you're going to unleash him right away to get a draft pick? You're playing with the football gods. What did Barkley do, Matt?
18 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a 92-yard touchdown run.
And how about, did he catch a ball out of the backfield?
7 catches for 38 yards.
And how about return? You don't got kicks and punts?
He didn't. The team wouldn't allow him to return because they didn't want him to get hurt.
All right, sorry. He didn't kick off. So he touched the ball 25 times. He didn't have to in that game. I was really impressed with that. Jack is in California. He's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Jack, welcome. Your turn. How are you today? Are you there? Oh, I'm sorry, not Jack. Mark in California. Eddie put the wrong name up. Mark, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing real good, Chris. I'd like to correct you on Forrest Gregg. He played right tackle.
Oh, I said left. Bob Skoronski played left. You're right. Right
that's
tackle.
Right.
Skoronski played. Now, if that's the case, you might want to leave Gregg out of there as far as the top 10 is concerned. Go ahead.
Well, you forgot Art Shell with the Raiders.
I know. I thought of Shell. I mean, I think Shell is more a part of the Raider left side of their line with Upshaw than it is actually a specific position myself.
Well, the left tackle, I've always debated this. If you look back in history, the right tackle, the right side of the offensive line, was the most important part of football for years until the 90s, and then someone came up with the idea of blind side. So, if you look back at history of offensive tackles, the right side.
Well, if that's true. Well, Munoz played the left side.
Right.
I'm assuming Parker and Roosevelt Brown were left tackles.
Parker was. I couldn't ask.
Roosevelt Brown was a great player for the Giants. I don't know what year did he come up. Can we look up Rosie Brown? Mix, I think played left tackle. Ogden played left tackle.
Right.
You forgot. I should have realized that about Gregg.
First round draft pick for the Ravens. But I've always had this running conversation with linemen all my life about all of a sudden, then the left side became so important. And in the old days, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you look at the right offensive lines sides.
I did not know that. If you're right, more power to you, Mark, on that. I am not aware of that. Obviously the blind side spot with most right-handed quarterbacks. That's why the left tackle is what it is. So I always thought the left tackle, it is today, of course, more important than the right tackle. I knew about Gregg. That's an error on my part, because I knew Skoronski. We had that famous trivia question with him. Roosevelt Brown came up in 53. He probably retired in the mid-60s. He just passed away about 3-4 years ago. 65. So Rosie Brown, now was he a left tackle or a right tackle? Just says offensive tackle. I believe he was a left tackle. I can look that up. Gil Brandt just put him as tackles. But Mark in California is right. They probably did not specify that in the era before we started watching football. So that was probably only in the last 25, 30 years. I don't know if they specified that in the 50s and the 60s. Left tackle for Rosie Brown. Okay. Jacob Wilkins is not worried about left tackles. He's worried about play-by-play minor league baseball. See if we can get him a job. He joins us with the Sports Bite half past on Mad Dog.